Damage, damage, and damage. The end. Well, now that I've finished that, I can get back to my comic reviews. Hi, I am Justin, and I am the real Manos and all that stuff. This is the first episode of Manos Got Issues. This is where I take a look at old back issues from my comic collection, and I talk about them, either single issues or full arcs, and there's really no theme this time, unlike the old 52. We just go back and look at stuff that's awesome, or maybe not awesome. This time around, I won't be talking about comics that I like. I can talk about any kind of story arc. Some that I probably won't like as much. This time around, though, I decided to start this pilot episode with one of my all-time favorite Spider-Man issues. And because of Brand New Day, I haven't really talked too much about Spider-Man, so a lot of you don't even know that I'm a pretty big Spider-Man fan. Because it's been like maybe 6-7 years or something like that. That's a long time to boycott a title. But I have been, and it's not fun. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of you who don't even realize how much I love Spider-Man. So, let's get started with Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 300. And this is a pretty historic issue, incidentally. This is the third issue Todd McFarlane worked on. He started with issue 298, so that is his first, but this is the one where he really did kind of come into his own, and where he and writer David Michelinie really took over the reins and made this their title. Although David had been writing the book for a little while with a few different artists, this is when the team kind of came together, and I think they started doing a lot of plotting together, which gave Marvel the idea of like, hey, maybe Todd McFarlane can write. Anyway, they gave him the title. But here's where we get going. Now, this is a pretty historic issue. Just to bring you up to speed, Peter Parker and Mary Jane had recently gotten married. There had been some kind of a costume issue that Peter had been having. He had gotten rid of the alien symbiotic suit, which was the black suit, but he really liked it, so he had just another version of the costume, just handmade, that was just regular, but with that design. Originally made by the Black Cat, by the way. But so he kept wearing a black suit and a red and blue suit. He kept going back and forth, which was kind of cool, actually. I don't wear the same thing every day, so maybe he should. Anyway, eventually he and Mary Jane had gotten married, and there had been this lingering subplot going through all three Spider-Man titles, Spectacular, Web Of, and Amazing Spider-Man, with somebody following him and not ringing off his spider sense, which is making Peter Parker nervous. But who knows? At the end of 299, Mary Jane comes home to find Venom waiting for him. And of course, we're all terrified, like, hey, what's going to happen? And Peter comes home to find her. Thankfully, he did not hurt her, but enough to scare the living shit out of her. Terrorized, she and Peter Parker decide maybe it's a good idea to get out of here and go hook up in a hotel. So we visit who was showing up, and we get to meet Eddie Brock. He is a former disgraced reporter who he'd been making a name for being a really out there kind of reporter, and making a lot of big stories happen. And it's explained later in the exposition once he gets monologuing to Peter Parker. But I'll tell you right now. He had broken the story of who was the serial killer, the Sin Eater, which was a Peter David story arc. I think it's in Spectacular Spider-Man. He had come out with an interview with the guy who was totally the Sin Eater, and then Peter Parker caught the real one. So his career was kind of ruined because journalists don't really like it when you make up stories. It's not a big thing with them. Or at least don't get caught. Anyway, they decide the next morning that Peter Parker obviously just puts together in his head that night that maybe it's the symbiotic suit. It was my suit, but it had a smile. Oh my god, it grew a smile. Yikes. And he goes back into his head thinking, Peter Parker's really great at exposition thinking. I don't know anybody else who does it as well as he does. Thinks about like how it maybe could have survived. We get to see Peter Parker and Mary Jane decide, you know what, maybe it's time to get rid of the old apartment. She is actually a rich supermodel at this point. So maybe, Peter's small apartment is not really for them anymore. As Mary Jane goes apartment or condo shopping, Peter starts doing a little shopping of his own. He swings by the Fantastic Four and picks up this sonic weapon, which he used previously on the suit, and starts kind of making himself become bait, looking for the guy, whoever that is, and the guy is actually right there. What's one of the things that I really like about Eddie Brock is that he's a creeper, and he's kind of the creepier side of Peter Parker. He has all his powers, but using it in a method of stalking is kind of like unnerving. This issue, this scene actually is stands out for me. They find this wonderful condo. It's huge, and it's unlike anything Peter's had. It's nothing he can afford, but Mary Jane can afford it. And I'm going to get right down to this part. It's something that really irritated me with fans and even some professionals who kept citing, the problem with Peter Parker is that he's married. He needs to a supermodel. He needs to relate to regular guys, losers who read our comics. That's who, he needs to relate to. That's not, the marriage was not the problem. And if anything, this scene, I think, indicates how it was well written for Peter Parker, because, by the way, this is 1988 or something like this. Peter Parker's wife makes more money than he does, and it's bothering him that he can't support them. And it's something that he feels unable to, even despite all the things he's done. He saved the world, at this point, dozens of times, sometimes single-handedly. He's goddamn Spider-Man. He's brilliant as Peter Parker. But yet, he feels like a loser because he can't support, his wife. And yeah, the male ego does have that effect. I can't do my part. I'm such a loser. I suck. And that's how you relate to people. Peter Parker just isn't feeling right about it. That he can't hold up, and he's doing his best to kind of figure it out. He had also been not talking to May very often, and May and him had not really a major disagreement, but she felt like she was getting in the way of their marriage, and Mary Jane says that's not even close to being true. Please come over as much as possible. That's when they move in together, and it's nice to see some of Peter Parker's supporting characters. Some we don't see after this, actually, like his three hot girlfriend neighbors. We don't see them anymore after this. They appeared a lot in Peter David issues, as well as Harry, Flash. It's cool seeing Flash Thompson because he'd eventually take on the Venom suit, but that's a whole nother story. Meanwhile, Eddie Brock is going to the place where he had acquired the suit one more time. He is mistaken for a thief by a cop, which he kills. Now, here's the thing. Venom, after a few issues, got so popular, Marvel wanted to make him a hero because he's so popular. And they called him the Lethal Protector. They went into that kind of grim and gritty, kind of heroes who kill, and they're awesome and stuff like that. Well, he kills innocent people, a lot. And that never... I think that's one of the things that kind of prevented the Eddie Brock Venom to become as popular as a hero that Marvel always wanted him to be. He's not the Punisher, because as much as I dislike the Punisher doesn't murder innocent people, and Venom does, and Eddie Brock does. And that's what makes him a great villain, because he has this weird perception that he is a hero, and he's trying to kill this villain, Spider-Man. If he kills innocent people to get to him, that just makes Spider-Man more evil, because he just won't let me kill him. That makes a cool villain. That makes an awful hero. So just to let it out there. Which is why eventually Marvel made the wise choice of just taking the suit off of the psychopath and putting it on someone we like Flash Thompson. That's why he's been able to work lately as a hero. because he's not on a serial killer. I don't know. I'm sorry it took them this long to figure that out, but thankfully they did. This issue ends with, of course, the story ends with Peter Parker and Venom finally finding each other. Eddie Brock explaining his origins, with, of course, the gorgeous Todd McFarlane art, and, of course, the spectacular fight. One of the things that kind of frustrates me sometimes about Todd McFarlane's recent work, at least work on Spawn, is he rarely has fight scenes anymore. There's so many posings and standings and all these kind of things. He does fight scenes awesome, almost to the point of looking like snapshots from animes. They just always are filled with great detail and action, and they just blend into each other wonderfully. And that's one of the things I love most about his run on Amazing Spider-Man, and actually that's my favorite run of any Todd McFarlane book. You know, Spawn, his Spider-Man stories, his Amazing Spider-Man is the place to go to see fantastic Spider-Man art from Todd McFarlane. I even like his stuff better than the stuff he did on the Hulk and the Detective Comics issues, although those are good. And it ends with a awesome kind of Batman-ish death trap, which I love. I don't usually see Spider-Man in these kind of situations. He webs him to the bells that he used to get rid of the Venom suit in the first place in order to crush himself. And he does the remarkably stupid James Bond villain bit where he goes off and leaves him. I'm sure you'll get killed. I'm going to go down here. Actually, it is partially explained that the Venom suit will be upset and disturbed by the bells, so he needs to get away. But still, not your best moment, not your smartest moment, Venom. Anyway, he is able to escape by getting his hand free and pulling himself with the clapper. And he realizes that he had webbed himself so much with that suit that his the Venom suit must be almost dry web. So he essentially forces him to use the web until he runs out, and it goes boom right on the right on the ground. The issue ends with him taking him off to the Fantastic Four, and him and Mary Jane having a discussion. Mary Jane tells him, you know what, I'm really not comfortable with you wearing the same suit as a serial killer. And Peter agrees. You know what, you're kind of right. I'm not kind of feeling great about it. But he had recently lost his last red and blue costume, and he pretty much committed to the black suit, so he had no suit. Until she dug up the fact that she had kind of stored away one last red and blue costume suit that he had got on the recent Spider-Man Wolverine crossover, which was this a story in Germany, and he had no costume for a minute, so he actually bought a store-bought Spider-Man costume that was kind of cheap, but it worked. And it says "Die Spider-Man" on the back, by the way. It's kind of funny. You don't see it on the back here, though. And of course, he swings off, always wearing the red and blue from now on, with minor exceptions here and there. This is a pretty great issue. I love it. This does a lot. I mean, if this was a modern comic, this would be maybe a 5-issue arc or something like this. We get a lot of stuff done. It's extremely beautiful as far as the art is concerned, and the pacing of the Michelini and McFarlane story, and of course introduces a great character in the form of the Venom villain. If you haven't picked this up, if you like Spider-Man, you should definitely go and check it out. Of course, issue 300 is a bit expensive. I've seen prices go all the way up from $100 to $2,000, depending on who you talk to. Mine has a few dings in it, so I think mine is worth around $80 to $100. But that's still nothing to sneeze at. You probably might be better off just finding it in a trade paperback and giving it a read. Not unless you feel like spending a few bucks. But that's up to you. Frankly, I think it's worth it. I love it. This then definitely gets 5 RAM chips out of 5. And I think that's it for the first episode of Manos Has Issues. I'll be checking back with you next week as we talk about another old comic. Push the button, Lindsay.